COVID-19 pandemic this year really hit hard. Everyone can say that. With parents at home struggling with their kids, homeschooling their kids, and also having to work at the same time. So today we are going to be focusing on mothers. Well, it just makes sense to focus on mothers. This is a mom show. This is going to be focusing on navigating the workspace and motherhood. Workspace meaning working from home, going to work, and also having to deal with kids and the pandemic. We're going to have someone on our show that is going to discuss navigating the workspace and motherhood with us. And I'm your host, Tolu, the Millennial Mom, and I'll be back shortly. Welcome back. As I said earlier, I'm going to be discussing how to navigate the workspace and motherhood. And I have a guest here with me that is going to simplify, explain, and as a professional, shed more light on navigating the workspace and motherhood. And with me here is the amazing Abi Osikoya-Yusuf. Hello, Abi.
Hi.
Abi is an amazing friend of mine. I would call her a friend because I met her through the most awkward way. I've known her, I've been following her on Instagram for like the longest time, and I met her in the hospital. What are the odds? And then I just said, I know you. And she's like, okay. But I actually just know her because her picture pops up on my page, and I'm like, okay, I follow you on Instagram. That's how I know you. And that's how we became friends. So we've had an amazing journey, and I really, really love her motherhood. She's also a millennial mom, so there's no excuse why we won't be friends anyway. Hello, Abi. So
Hi.
Let's meet you, Abi.
Okay, my name is Abi, but everyone calls me Abi. I'm an HR consultant, a recruiter, a resume writer, and I'm a mom. Well, maybe that's what I should have put first. I'm a mom of two, since it's a mom's show. And I think you've pretty much said it all in terms of how we met and all of that.
So, yes, I understand that everyone's motherhood journey is different. And I think the same goes for career as well. Everyone's career journey is different, regardless of, okay, everybody studied different courses, but even people that have the same course, they have different career journey because of motherhood or because of, other things. Like life just has a way of coming at you. So what has your own motherhood and career journey been like?
Okay, so I'll take it from childhood. I grew up in a family where my mom was always a career woman. I practically grew up knowing that she wakes up early in the morning, goes to work, comes back in the evening. So for me, growing up, it was just
instilled.
The
norm has been instilled already.
Yes.
Okay.
So I always knew that I was going to end up this way, being a career mom. And I remember that when I got pregnant with my first, I had just started a new job. The job started barely, I think, 2 months before I found out I was pregnant. So that was my, first real test into balancing both motherhood and career.
Okay.
And then I had a very difficult pregnancy. Okay, before I even get to the pregnancy bit, I think the first thing I will touch on is how, you start a new job and everybody's looking at you like, look at this one. She just started work and she's really pregnant.
I know
and
that.
You know how it is in Nigeria, where a lot of times it's unspoken. Some companies will actually tell you, from the beginning, that you cannot get pregnant for a certain amount of time. Where I worked, it wasn't, spelled out in quote, but I got that vibe.
Okay, can I come? Did you get it from men or women or
from everybody, especially from women, from women. And they would sometimes, pass comments, laugh at you, and I was really sick. When I was pregnant, I was really sick. I had a condition called hyperemesis, which is extreme morning sickness. And I don't know why they call that the morning sickness. It's not morning sickness. It's
have it all through the day.
Morning, afternoon, evening, night sickness. So I was always sick. First of all, I had motion sickness. So getting to work
was a hassle.
Was even a problem. I had to get a driver, first of all, because I couldn't drive. And then the journey through, getting to work, I worked very far from home. I would throw up all the way to work. I had bags in my car. I would get to work and I was useless, to be honest. I would just get to work every single day and just lie down on the couch until it's time. So I was practically just going there to mark register. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't function. I had a conversation with my boss. She was a woman as well. So she was a bit understanding, but I kind of knew, that She was just looking at me like,
when it's time.
You know, so yeah, that was really difficult. It was a very, very, very extremely difficult time because I had to, my hyperemesis was so bad that I was in and out of hospital. So when I was at work, I was definitely in the hospital. I had to go to the hospital every time to get rehydrated because it would get to the point. I used to
just throw up so much and you lose all the...
I used to throw up, I'm not exaggerating, at minimum 20 times a day. Like I couldn't keep anything down. I couldn't eat at all. I couldn't drink even water. It was that bad. It was really bad. So I would go to work, lie down on the couch. When it's time to close, I'll go home and then maybe I might not even be able to go back to work the next day because a lot of those hospital visits were like midnight trips.
Okay, so you just stay overnight.
Yes,
and then
I would have
in the morning.
sat on the bathroom floor in my house for hours throwing up, and then you'll get to the point where my husband would just be like, okay, let's go to the hospital.
Before
yes.
Just
so yeah, I mean it was tough. That was my first real test, you know, balancing motherhood and career. And I went through that for the whole period, for the whole 9 months of my pregnancy. And then the baby came. And I went on maternity leave.
Okay.
3 months. Yeah, you know, I think it's a whole separate journey, you know.
Okay.
Having, you know, being pregnant and then having the baby and then having to go back to work.
Okay.
That's a whole, you know, a whole separate thing. So.
Okay. I'm gonna dive into that particular part which you spoke about, being at work and not being able to function.
Yeah.
How did that sit well with your boss? Like in terms of you're here, I pay you to work, and then you can't function.
Yes.
Because I understand that you can't really control your morning sickness, but also I'm thinking, the question is, why do you have to be here if you can't work?
Yeah.
How did she deal with that?
So, I mean,
because not everybody can take that from you.
Yes.
Because I've had cases where I was pregnant, I had kids and I wanted to work in a place and they wouldn't let me work because they just feel like you have 2 kids, we don't need that. We need somebody that we can get, like literally sort out everything from.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
how did you manage that? Or how did she manage that?
Yeah. So all through that period, I kept thinking, I would get to work one day and she would say go. Yeah, and she'd just call me and say, you know what, why don't you just take this whole time off and come back? And
she never did?
She never did.
You still know her?
She was, no.
you need to give her an award.
She was actually, I mean, I give her that. She was very understanding. In fact, there were a couple of times that she would come and visit me in the hospital while I was admitted and everything. So, I mean, I guess it was just her. She was just nice. I know not everyone can
be like that. Yeah. Okay.
But I was lucky. I mean, I tried to work.
Okay.
To be honest, I tried. There were days when I would go struggle, sit at my desk, but
it didn't happen.
It was tough. It was tough.
Okay. Let's just say that you were blessed to have that kind of boss because you don't get that kind of person all the time. Yeah. So I'm going to have a quick touch on one particular aspect that I know that touches a lot of women, which is employment gap, especially when you get pregnant or you get married, you move from one place to the other or you move to another like state, but you're looking for a new job and then you have employment gap. How do you deal with that as a mom? Because the first thing a lot of people the first thing people told me when I was dealing with my employment gap was to go and find a business, like do something, sell. And I'm like, I love making money, but I also like 9 to 5. I want to be, a career woman. So, how do you deal with mom guilt, having to leave, let's say you're 3 months old, 6 months old? I'm just gonna ask you all this right now, like mom guilt, employment gap, and then when we come back from our short break, you would answer all this question and shed more light on it for us. Thank you. We're going on a break now, and when we come back, we will be discussing employment gap and mom guilt. See you soon. Hi guys, so before we went on the short break, I was asking Abi about employment gaps and mom guilt, so we're going to go right back into it. So Abi, I was asking you about employment gaps and how you dealt with it, and if you didn't deal with it, maybe from an HR perspective, as a professional, you can shed more light on that, and also how to deal with mom guilt.
So with employment gaps, well, fortunately for me, I didn't have to deal with any gaps per se,
Ain't you
apart
lucky?
from apart from the regular, maternity leave for
Leave.
both of my kids. I just went on maternity leave. Although, I mean, I won't exactly call it a gap. I was just lucky again because when I was supposed to go back to work from after I had my first baby, after the first 3 months, my office then started to have some challenge, and we had to go back home. It was a company-wide decision. They asked everyone. So I had like an extra month with your child, with my child. And then when I even eventually had to go back to work, it wasn't every day. So I was,
Flexible.
that was a bit good for me. But in terms of gaps, some people actually have to take that time off. Some have to quit their jobs completely, or just take unpaid leave or whatever, and say, oh, I'll be back after this certain amount of time. Unfortunately, motherhood is not something you can
leave and come back.
Yes, it's, how do I put it? So two things in your life. There's motherhood, and then there's the career. You need those two things. You can't rob, as much as sometimes you want to have both, but sometimes you can't have both at the same time. Do you get what I mean? So I've encountered so many women who, maybe in the course of interviews, you see, you ask them questions, or what happened during this time, and they'll tell you personal reasons. And I'm like, what do you mean by personal? You have to sometimes dig deep to get them to open up and say, oh, it's because I had a baby. And I always tell people, own it with your full chest. Like, don't
say it out.
Yes. Why are you hiding the fact that you took a break to have a baby? I understand that sometimes in Nigeria it's a problem because certain companies would not even want to hire you because
you're a mom.
Yeah, they already gauge you. Maybe they will ask you. Sometimes during interviews, they stylishly ask questions about kids? Do you have kids? How old are your kids, or how old is your kid? Because they are trying to see if
they need commitment.
Yeah, likely to get pregnant again in another 2 years or 3 years or whatever. Look, motherhood is not something that we can put aside. If you want it, you can have it with your career. It's not easy, but you just have to find a way to balance it. So dealing with gaps, I just tell people, just own it. If you have to take that gap, take it. It shouldn't be a deal breaker, but if it is, then maybe that job was just not meant for you. You look for the one, that
can accommodate
the fact that you're a mom. And in terms of mom guilt, I think we've all been there. We've all experienced mom guilt.
Absolutely.
I remember the first time I dropped my baby when I was going back to work, my first baby, on the day I was supposed to resume. I left her with my mother-in-law and I cried.
You didn't feel like she was in safe hands?
I knew she was in safe hands.
Yeah, but
that bond, you've built, 3 whole months of seeing her every single day, carrying her and everything. And then the first day, I don't think there's any mom who didn't go through it. It's like when your child starts school too. Sometimes they say first day when your child goes to school, you cry. I think I did everything.
All
first day of, drop the child, with somebody, or drop the child at crèche, drop the child in school. It's just natural. It comes with the territory, I remember I cried. And then when I got to work, I started thinking, oh God, should I have come back to work? Maybe I should have told them I need some extra time. Is she fine? Has she eaten? But then again, so that's the thing. I didn't.
You didn't call?
I didn't. I didn't call. I consciously did not.
Won't call today.
Yes,
I can do this.
I know that she's in safe hands. I can't, even though I'm, where I am, I'm feeling a bit paranoid, but I knew she was in safe hands. Can I ask you a question? So, yeah.
If she was in a crèche, would you call?
I would have called. Definitely.
Are you serious?
I would have called.
Okay. Because it's totally different.
Strangers, exactly.
Yes. Because if I leave my child with my mother-in-law as well, I won't call.
Yeah.
But the first time I left my first child, I didn't call. And she was in a crèche. But she was literally just 5 minutes away. So, but the thing is, I was waiting for their call. And the call never came. And then I came back. And then I saw her. I was like, and I'm like, oh, you're okay. So, that kind of put my mind at rest. And I kept looking at my phone, to be honest. I was thinking, they will call now. Yeah. They would ring me because I had a fussy child. My child is very fussy and she doesn't eat certain things. And I was really waiting for them. But she was such a happy child. So I had that peace of mind. But I know some kids, even when my son started school, I see kids that are older than my son. And they come with, like, wet face, wet nose. I come back in the afternoon to pick this boy. Their face is still wet and crying. And I'm like, you people are going to make your mom feel, so bad. And they have all this guilt all over their face. And these are actually kids that are already in school. So it's not only just the,
but we have to work. That's the thing. We have to, we have to work.
I agree.
But, mom guilt is valid. It's very valid. I had a very nasty experience once. And that's why I never try to underplay or undercut my mom guilt whenever it comes. It's okay to have mom guilt. You just need to learn to balance it.
It's okay, guys. It's okay.
I'll share a little bit of what happened.
Okay.
So this was with my first baby as well. I said I went back to work after 3 months, and then my company started to have problems and all of that. Okay. So I had started looking for another job. Luckily for me, I got a new job in January. Oh. And I resumed a couple of days into that job, or maybe, I think the second day or so, second, third day. I had just, my nanny that had been with me from the time she was born, she was still the one with me at that. And for the first time, because prior to that time, I always left her with my mother-in-law, with my mom, or, somebody who was available.
There's always another person there.
Yes, but this particular day, I just thought, I don't know, for some reason, I got comfortable with the nanny, and I thought, I'm sure she can handle the child on her own. So I went to work. And around 10 o'clock, I started to call, and she wasn't taking my call. I called and called and called. She wasn't taking my call. And eventually...
How old was your child then?
She was 6 months. When she eventually picked up the phone, I could hear noise, like crazy noise. Almost like she was on the road. And not just a normal road, like busy road. And where I live is extremely quiet. So I knew that she wasn't home. And I knew that even if she was outside the house, the noise couldn't have been. So I asked her where she was, and she said, she just stepped out to buy credit. I'm like, credit? Where's my baby? She said it's
on her back.
On her back, that she backed. And I'm like, please take my baby. And she said, I'm already going back home. I'm almost home now. So I started, following up.
Stop already listening to this story.
You've not even heard it at all. I was calling, and she would pick up and say, I'm almost home. And then this went on for like an hour. At about 11:30, I couldn't reach her anymore.
I'm sure you couldn't concentrate anymore.
Her phone was off. So I called my husband, and he was like, okay, he's also going to be trying to call. I called my mom, and my mom said, that apparently she had also been trying to call her. But she didn't want to scare me, she didn't want to, she was also at work. My mom was still working then. Now she's retired. So anyway, long story short, I told them at work, this was just my third day on the job, told them I had an emergency, I had to go. We got to the house, she wasn't there, my baby wasn't there. Everybody was calling her. At this time, the police had gone to pick up the person who brought her. Okay. It was just, I don't even know if, I don't know what happened to me that day. I was gone. She was, her phone was off. So there was no way to even say where she was. Where are you? My baby was 6 months. She couldn't talk. She couldn't, Anyway, she came back late at night.
With your baby?
At 9:30 p.m. with my baby wearing just a bodysuit. And she had just one tiny bottle with her that she had taken from all day. Since morning.
Wow. I don't want to imagine how that
panned out. It's a crazy story, yes. But ever since that day, leaving my babies with nannies.
Okay. I would feel the same way. Because this is the kind of, some people experience this kind of situation and they don't even, from that day, they don't work anymore.
Yeah,
it's just I'm not doing it anymore. It might not even be a personal decision. Their husband just says to them, nah, you're not going to go to work anymore.
I considered that day. I was like, I mean, there was no, when she came, maybe I should just, when she came back and she gave us one cock and bull story about how she had to go and she was just begging that she's really sorry that she didn't have any plans of taking the child anywhere. She just wanted to go and pick up something and then there was traffic.
For hours?
Why didn't you, if you had told me, I would have stayed at home. What did I go and do at work? For God's sake,
so that
yes, so that guilt.
I can see it all. I can see how you are reliving that day.
That thing almost killed me because I kept thinking, am I ever going to go to work? So anyway, that was the last time. My kids are older now. My daughter is 8 now. My son is 5. But till date,
somebody that you know has to be with them.
I do not leave them alone with anyone. And those are part of the challenges of,
being a mom and
being a career person, because, I mean, how do you want to do it? I have to go to work. But then again, I cannot leave my children alone. So, yeah.
Okay, that is like the perfect example of mom guilt, which I'm sure a lot of women out there can relate to or with, because it's absolutely not easy for mom. But also, I also want to touch on the laws, the legal side of HR, the legal side of HR and working as a mom, as a woman, with regards to working and how they can help them as a whole. I don't know if they're actually laws that are actually supporting, like in terms of HR and the HR and legal aspect. That's what we are going to be going to next. So when we come back after the break, we'll be talking with Abi on the laws supporting moms as in the workspace. Thank you. So before we went on our short break, I was discussing and asking Abi about the laws assisting moms in the workspace. So Abi, we're going to go back to you now, and I already asked you the question, what do you think are the laws, or what are the laws? Enlighten us, literally just shed light on the laws supporting moms in the workspace and also HR as a whole, like where you work. Do you people have like certain laws that actually support moms? Okay,
so the thing is, unfortunately, Nigerian employment law is not very friendly to moms. First of all, our laws are outdated. The employment laws that we use have been written as far back as the 70s.
Most laws are.
And yes, and for some weird reason, our lawmakers have chosen to completely ignore employment laws. That's very sad. But recently, in the last couple of years or so, Lagos State government particularly extended maternity leave for women
to 6 months.
From 3 months.
That doesn't apply to
But that
private.
doesn't, exactly, that doesn't apply to people who work in private organizations. So, I mean, I think for anyone watching this show, it's also an opportunity to reach out to the government. Please help us help moms. We need that time with our babies. 3 months is just too short. You know, I know that I have worked in a few places where I've tried to propose, most times private companies, they will knock it down.
Propose longer time?
Yes.
Longer maternity leave?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But they always knock it down most of the time. They will say no, they can't afford it. But what I try to propose is, okay, let's do it this way. 3 months full, because for most companies they do, the 3 months is full pay.
Or some of them cut it.
Yeah, so we can replicate what they do in the UK, for instance. In the UK, what they do is 6 months, you get your 6 months, but then anything after that, your pay starts to reduce. Yeah.
So you don't know that, if you need more money, you come back to work.
Exactly. So we can replicate that in Nigeria as well. So maybe if what you can afford to give is 3 months with full pay, that's fine. From, between 4 to 6 months, you can do half pay or whatever it is, you can afford to pay, just to make sure that at least the mom still gets. So yeah, on that front, in this part of the world, we're not very lucky, but hopefully things get better. I think people are starting to be more aware of that. Okay,
in light of that, is there like HR organization? The way we have like the NBA. Is there anything like that for HR?
We have the CIPM. Yes, we have the CIPM. I know that the CIPM is doing its part. To, but at the end of the day, it's only the lawmakers that can make these things happen.
Absolutely.
What we can do as HR professionals is propose, such changes to the companies, that we work with. To say, let's try
more on a personal level.
Yes, and some companies have actually incorporated a little bit of, sometimes, they put in their policy and relax it a bit and say, okay, you're allowed. Some do 4 months, actually. I've worked in a place where
you get 4 months.
Yes.
Full pay.
Full pay. 4 months, yeah.
Abi, you need to hook me up with these places that you're talking about. Let me tell my mom friends. Let them come and apply. Like, there's this place that gives 4 months.
Yes. And it's a plus to sometimes when you hear, that this place.
Absolutely. Because when I apply for jobs, those are one of the things that I ask about,
how friendly. Mom friendly.
Mom friendly it is. Even if it's not also mom friendly, you ask about the maternity, you ask about the leave, and you also ask about, pension and all those others. Some of them don't, sometimes it's not all about money. You get to a place and then the work culture as a whole
exactly.
is more, you know, embracing and you're comfortable. And you're like, okay, this place is fine for me. Sometimes there's a lot of money, you get paid more, and you know, the work culture is just really messy. But you're like, I need money and I need to. So it's hard enough that there's no job out there. And now as a mom, you have to deal with being a mom and also having to deal with, should I work here? Is there, you know, is this work culture good, uncomfortable, or mom friendly for me? So all those things, that's what made me ask, like, okay, are there actually any laws that actually, because I know in the UK it's very, very like, it's a no deal breaker. Like, you have to have these laws in place for moms and other people. It's just, I don't know, but
hopefully we'll get there.
I hope so. I really hope so. I know a lot of people don't consider these things as serious, but until you as a mom actually feel that impact, that is when you know that, no, this thing is actually serious. And it's all good and nice when you're talking about healthy children. When you talk to parents that actually have special needs children, or they have sick children, it's a different ballgame mentality.
Many of them can't even work at all, to be honest.
Absolutely. And some people really want to work, so please, if you're watching this, you're a lawmaker, or you feel like you're in a place where you can make some changes, it would be really, really great, and every mom would really appreciate it, working mom, so they would really love it. And I'm sure it would even change some mom's perspective or women's perspective about going back to work after having a child. So let's take away the extreme seriousness and legal stuff out. Okay, so I'm going to go into another side of our discussion, which is basically personal. For you as a mom and an HR specialist or professional, I want to ask you your personal advice to moms. Like, what would you advise first-time moms going back to work, like dealing with, you know, being jittery and leaving their kids, be it with nannies or like family? What would you advise them? And also, what would you advise as a career, like going back to work, like how to get back into the system and get a job?
Okay, I think first thing I'll say is there's a book I read called The Pressure Cooker by Nkiru. I think every career woman needs to read that book.
I know her. You know, she's worked with Millet.
Yes, and it basically just tells you that regardless of what your challenges are as a woman, you can have it all. You know, they always tell us that we can't have it all. We have to choose one between motherhood and career. But we can have it all. I think we just need to put the right, you know, systems in place. Make sure you have the right support. Make sure you take help. You know, some people try to be super moms and say,
do everything.
Don't do that. You know, we should try and take as much help as we can. You know, not try to do everything, because burnout is inevitable. When you do take everything on. Yes, I personally have gone through phases in my life where, you know, I've tried to take on so much. I can do this, I can do that, I can do that, and then you get to the point where you just get extremely burnt out. So my advice to women at whatever level, first time, second time, as long as you're a mom and you have to balance, you know, being a mom with your career, just try to get as much help as you can and make sure that you don't get to that point where you burn out. Call for help. Your mom, your auntie, whoever is on hand.
Your husband.
Exactly. Thank you. The husband.
Your husband.
Well, I mean, I think that comes with, and I know that there are some husbands, true. I know there are some husbands who do not help, but please, husbands.
Help. Help. Before we drop.
We need to beg, yes, please. Yeah. So, yes, I mean, but I think the reason why I didn't even, you know, mention husbands, because it's a collective thing already. It's you and your husband. So yes, get extra help. If
okay, you already have two people, then get extra help.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So before we wrap it up, I'm going to ask you, because so far it's been insightful, interesting, and I've actually loved it. I'm sure everyone out there that is listening has loved it as well. It was really nice talking to you, Abi. But I'm going to just quickly ask you, do you have any advice for the moms out there listening to you, watching you, and thinking, you know, maybe Abi had it good and she had like great bosses around her and like a good support system? Do you have any advice for women watching you and listening to you out there?
So I think every woman's journey is different,
totally.
Right? And we've all had so many experiences. I mean, I shared one of the most horrible ones I've had, and trust me, I've had
a lot.
Yes, a lot more, you know, others. So I think the most important thing is everyone know your own situation and find what works for you. You cannot look at what somebody else is doing. You know, we talked the other time about, you know, husbands. Some people, like you said, have husbands who are not supportive. Don't take it out. Yes, ask for help, you know, but don't take it out on your husband if he's not the one. Yes, if he's the kind who does not support, find something else or somebody else who can support you, can help you, you know, so that it's unnecessary pressure, you know. So, I mean, I think my point is, you know, just look at your own personal situation and find what works for you. What works for everybody is different. For some people, you know, it can work, you know, taking a child to creche when, you know, when the child is a baby, and then when he gets to a certain age, gets a living nanny. For some other people, it doesn't work that way, you know. So just look at your own situation, look for what works best for you, and hang on to it. Those are my parting shots.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with you on that. So I don't know if there's any other thing, any other person's thinking, but for me, I would just say to all the moms out there, being a mom does not change you, it only enhances you. If there's any other way to put it, that's how I feel. And like Abi rightfully said, you can have it all. And I'm also I'm an advocate for you can have it all. However, I'm just going to put it out there that you might not be able to have everything. If you have it in little doses, is way much more better than not having it at all. You might not have like the best career or anything, but you have a job and you're able to manage it with your child. You might be thinking, oh, I don't have you know, a supportive husband, like she just said, but you know, you have a husband that probably does a little. You see, that little, if you take it out, it really makes like a huge difference. And to all the employers out there, I'm just going to say this to you. Moms are your best employees. Don't ever underestimate them. A mom is a great manager. A mom is she's great at time management. She's an all-rounder. She's like an octopus. She has 2 hands, but she has almost 8. You need to see some mom work in the house, and then you know that multitasking is actually like, it comes with motherhood. So this is my own take. I'm not like an expert on this, but I've seen it happen to me. So until you come your way next week, it is me, Tolu, your host, from Millennial Mum Show.